Acting all high and mighty just because you paid the down payment is embarrassing, you know.
My daughter-in-law, laughing heartily, now looked like nothing more than a witch to me.
You poor farmers probably emptied your entire savings account, right? Must be thrilled to spend your meager retirement funds on your precious son and his wife, huh?
I built this house, you know.
What?
When my wife said this, laughing uproariously, my daughter-in-law turned pale all at once. My name is John Smith, and I'm 70 years old. After graduating from college, I worked as an agricultural cooperative's employee until I retired. 5 years after graduating college, I married my wife, Susan. Susan and I have been childhood friends who lived in the same neighborhood. Since I was the second son and Susan was an only child, I became an heir in her family as a son-in-law. Susan worked for 5 years after graduating college, but quit her job completely to marry me. Nowadays, it's said that household chores and childcare should be shared between husband and wife, but back in my day, men worked and women took care of the home and kids. I think I caused my wife a lot of hardship, but she raised our son and daughter wonderfully. Our son, unlike me, was very talented. In middle school, he got straight A's and went to the best high school around here. After high school graduation, he left home and went to a public university in another state, then came back home and got a job at a big company. Our daughter wasn't as academically gifted as our son, but she was very curious, so when she expressed a desire to study abroad, we enrolled her in a high school in Germany. The paperwork was quite a hassle, but her teacher, who taught German at school, was very helpful. She ended up attending college in Germany and found a job there. We were worried for the first few years, but since she came home a few times a year and we had video calls, we gradually adjusted to her independence. Both my family and my wife's family are farmers. I think those who understand will understand. Farmers who are members of agricultural cooperatives are often perceived to be very wealthy. Many farmers were originally landowners, and both my family and my wife's family are no exception. Thus, my wife's family also needs an heir. Have you heard that only the top few percent of Americans pay estate taxes? Unless the inheritance amount is large, there is no estate tax. In our families, there has been a significant estate tax for generations. That's just how it is. Growing up in this household, I realized that true wealth understands how to spend money wisely. They don't recklessly buy luxury cars or handbags, nor do they splurge on expensive clothes or jewelry. If they can get a free cup of coffee with a coffee coupon, they happily buy the coupon. However, when it comes to children's education, they prioritize quality over cost. Both my wife and I watched our parents and grandparents manage money correctly, so we tried to do the same for our children. When our son turned 30, he told us he was dating a woman with marriage in mind and wanted to bring her home. My wife and I were genuinely happy. Our son is handsome and smart, even by my standards. Working for a big company, he probably earns a decent salary. We were always curious about what kind of woman our son was dating. On the day our son and his girlfriend were supposed to visit, we were anxiously waiting. I put on a suit I hadn't worn since retiring and joked with my wife. I might have gained a bit of weight. However, the scheduled time passed and they hadn't arrived. Our son texted saying, "She's running late, we'll be about 30 minutes late." Well, these things happen, I thought, but even an hour later, they hadn't shown up. The feast my wife had prepared had already gone cold. Finally, they arrived 2 hours late. Our son saw the cold food my wife had prepared.
I'm really sorry. We're so late even though you cooked for us. She wasn't feeling well and insisted we eat out. So we've already eaten.
I see. Well, these things happen. I'm John Smith, and this is my wife, Susan. We were looking forward to meeting you today. Are you feeling better? Honestly, I was a bit annoyed knowing my wife had worked hard on the meal since early morning, but I told myself it couldn't be helped if she wasn't feeling well and introduced myself.
It really feels like a farmhouse, like something out of an old American story. Oh, I'm Natalie. Nice to meet you.
What a rude girl. That was the first impression my wife and I shared. As my wife and I were stunned by her comment, our son laughed and nudged her, saying, "Oh, Natalie, you're so funny." Is this what they mean by love is blind? It seems my son doesn't realize how rude she is. My wife and I were honestly worried about having her as our daughter-in-law, but our son was so smitten with her that we couldn't say anything. That day, she stayed at our house for only about 15 minutes. 6 months after this meeting, they got married. They rented an apartment about a 15-minute drive from our house. Before my son got married, I had promised him, "When you get married, I'll build you a house on our spare land." We had more land than we could keep track of, so we decided to build a house in the most convenient location. I planned to cover all the costs for my son's house, but my son said, "I can't let you do that. I'll take out a loan and pay for it myself." So I gave him $70,000 as a down payment. My wife took charge of the design. In fact, my wife is a top-notch architect who studied architecture at MIT. She holds a first-class architect's license and has worked for one of the largest architectural firms in the US. She has designed mansions for overseas celebrities and was a highly sought-after architect. What's amazing is that she achieved this status in just 5 years. Our marriage was arranged when we were in high school. However, my wife, who loved studying, asked her parents to let her do what she loved for just 5 years after college. She said if she didn't succeed, she would give up. In the end, she established a solid career as an architect, but kept her promise to her parents and quit her job to marry me after 5 years. So, my wife had always said, "I definitely want to design our children's houses." Her dream finally came true. The house she designed was nothing short of a masterpiece. Since it was the first house she had designed in decades after her sudden rise and disappearance as a genius architect, the media requests were overwhelming. Our son handled all the media inquiries, but it was gratifying for me to hear from neighbors, "I saw you on TV. Susan is really amazing." I always knew my wife was a genius, and seeing the world recognize it made me proud. However, one thing that bothered me was that even though the house was finished, our son and his wife hadn't invited us over yet. We had only seen the exterior of the completed house. I'm sure my wife also wanted to see the interior, but of course, we couldn't see it without our son and daughter-in-law's permission. I had sent my son several messages to prompt him.
Natalie seems to be feeling unwell. She still doesn't want anyone to come over.
Hearing this, we couldn't force ourselves to visit. 3 months passed since the house was built. Just as we were getting tired of only seeing the exterior, we ran into our son and his wife at the local grocery store. It had been a while since I saw my daughter-in-law, but she looked very healthy. "Hey, what a coincidence. It's good to see you looking well, Natalie. I heard you haven't been feeling well, but are you all right now?"
Oh, well, today, I'm still not feeling great.
Natalie mumbled something.
Actually, Natalie has been feeling much better lately. We just came from an all-you-can-eat Italian restaurant. By the way, since you've been wanting to see the house, why don't you come over now?
That would be great. Right, Susan? You've been wanting to see it too.
Yes, I'd love that.
Since it had been a while since we last saw our son, my wife and I were pretty excited.
Wait a minute,
It's okay, Natalie. You look like you're feeling well today, and my parents have been wanting to see the house.
Well, if it's just a quick look.
I was a bit concerned by my daughter-in-law's reluctant expression, but the thought of finally seeing my wife's masterpiece made me forget all about it. We headed straight to our son and daughter-in-law's house. As soon as we walked in, I couldn't help but cry. Of course, I had seen pictures many times, but seeing it in person was completely different. Thinking about how much time my wife had spent designing this house and how much attention to detail she put in made me sigh in admiration. The house she designed was truly a work of art. This is really amazing.
Right? Natalie is super happy with it too.
Oh, could you leave soon after a quick look?
My daughter-in-law said, looking genuinely displeased.
Why would you say that? They should take their time to see it properly.
Because having farmers like your parents in our mansion lowers its value. And John and Susan, can you stop interfering with us just because he make more money at a big company?
To my wife and me, it felt like her true colors were finally showing, but our son seemed bewildered by her sudden change.
Hey, Natalie, apologize to my parents.
Why should I? It's audacious for your parents to want to come here in the first place.
Audacious. But this house.
Acting all high and mighty just because you paid the down payment is embarrassing, you know?
My daughter-in-law, laughing heartily, now looked like nothing more than a witch to me.
You poor farmers probably emptied your entire savings account, right? Must be thrilled to spend your meager retirement funds on your precious son and his wife, huh?
Natalie, what's gotten into you?
My son, on the verge of tears, looked at his wife, who now seemed like a witch.
Oh, I've always thought so. People who work at agricultural cooperatives are just failures who couldn't become civil servants. And your mother never really worked, right? This house isn't for poor folks who've only ever played in the dirt.
Stop insulting my parents. They are truly remarkable people.
My son said, crying.
It's natural for you to love your parents, William. Kids can't choose their parents. But now that you're married to me, you can relax. I'm the only family you need.
My daughter-in-law looked at my wife and me as if we were something filthy.
Didn't your sister leave home because she hated being poor? How did you even afford her study abroad expenses? Did you borrow money? You probably haven't even paid it off yet, have you?
My son looked like he had lost the will to argue and just stared at his wife in disbelief.
This is a good opportunity. William, let's cut ties with your parents. We don't need them dragging you down. My parents are all we need.
My daughter-in-law said, suggesting the unthinkable, cutting ties with us.
Is that all you have to say?
My wife said quietly. Only my son and I understood that my wife was angry.
I built this house, you know.
What?
When my wife said this, laughing uproariously, my daughter-in-law turned pale all at once. However, she quickly returned to her mocking expression.
The construction company built this house, didn't they? What are you talking about?
Oh, I didn't explain well. I designed this house.
Huh? That can't be true. I heard this house was designed by a very famous architect.
Seeing that my daughter-in-law still didn't believe it, I spoke up. William, do you have the blueprints for this house? Bring them here. Natalie, you seem to misunderstand a lot. First of all, farmers aren't poor. My family and my wife's family are primarily in the real estate business now. We have so much land that we turn it into parking lots, apartments, and sell plots for houses. Land around here is quite valuable, so selling just one plot can bring in about $200,000 instantly. Upon hearing that amount, my daughter-in-law let out a small squeal. Of course, that's not all. We also have rental income every month. You can think of our income as more than most politicians or CEOs. My daughter-in-law was stunned, finally realizing her misconceptions about farmers.
But your clothes are always worn out and you drive an old pickup truck. You don't look wealthy at all. I don't want people like that in this mansion.
It was my son who counted this.
True wealth values money more than anyone. They don't buy unnecessary things, and they don't flaunt their wealth. I respect my parents for that.
Hearing my son's words reassured me that I had taught him well about handling money. Then my son came back with the blueprints.
Here, Dad. I got the blueprints.
I spread out the blueprints. Can you see here? The designer's name is written here. I pointed to the corner of the blueprint. Sure enough, it said, Designer, Susan Smith.
But I heard the designer was someone really famous.
My daughter-in-law's voice trembled. That's right. My wife is a very famous designer. It was rare for women to go to college back then. But my wife loved studying and was very talented. Even though she had to marry me to carry on her family name, she spent 5 years designing many famous buildings before our marriage. I continued, watching my daughter-in-law's stunned expression. MIT's architecture department is the best in the world, as you might know, Natalie. My wife entered and graduated as the top student. Then she joined the most prestigious architectural firm in the US. I spoke with deep emotion, reminiscing about my wife. My wife promised her parents she would only work for 5 years. During that time, she designed houses for world-famous celebrities and museums overseas. All the buildings were truly amazing. To get a first-class architect's license, you need 2 years of practical experience after graduation. So my wife established her status in just 3 years of actual work. Do you understand how incredible that is, Natalie?
No.
My daughter-in-law stammered. She had no idea my wife was such an accomplished person. This house became a mansion that attracted TV and magazine interviews because my wife designed it. Even though William is working hard, there's no way his salary alone could buy a house like this. My son nodded vigorously.
Just the design fee would be a staggering amount.
My daughter-in-law finally seemed to understand everything.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for such a wonderful house.
She completely changed her attitude.
I'm really happy to be part of such an amazing home.
Didn't you call me a failed agricultural cooperative's employee who couldn't become a civil servant?
Well, that was,
My daughter-in-law stammered, trying to cover up her mistake.
John had passed the civil service exam, but turned it down because he wanted to work in agriculture.
Oh, that's right, I remember now.
And as for our daughter, she initially wanted to pay for her own study abroad by working part-time and going after college. But John insisted on paying all the expenses to send her to Germany from high school, because time is limited. You understand now that we didn't take on any debt, right?
yes, of course.
My daughter-in-law said in a small voice, finally realizing how off base her comments had been.
I had no idea Natalie was mocking my family so much. I can't believe you wanted me to cut ties with my parents.
The way my son looked at his wife was like he was seeing something filthy. In a panic, my daughter-in-law clung to my son, half crying, "I don't think that anymore."
I have the utmost respect for my parents. I cherish my sister. I can't forgive you for speaking so harshly about my family. I want a divorce.
No, why should we get divorced over this? I've apologized so much already.
My daughter-in-law cried hysterically at the mention of divorce.
That's not the issue. For me, respecting my parents is a basic requirement for marriage. Your words have made me lose all feelings for you.
But what am I supposed to tell my parents?
My daughter-in-law collapsed to the floor.
I told them that since I married into a wealthy family, I'd send them money. My dad just bought a luxury car, and my mom got expensive jewelry. They haven't finished paying for them yet.
That's your own doing. No matter what you say, I have no intention of continuing this marriage.
It was the first time I saw my normally gentle son so angry. My daughter-in-law continued to cry in despair. To think her parents bought luxury items just because their daughter married well, it was absurd. My wife and I exchanged looks, thinking, just as children are children, so too are parents. My daughter-in-law, having lost everything, cried for a long time. That day, she was thrown out and returned to her parents' house. When she explained the situation, her parents were furious. Apparently, they had spent money recklessly on luxury watches and expensive hotel stays, and now they threatened to cut ties with her if she got divorced. Desperate, my daughter-in-law begged my son to take her back many times, but he refused. She even started stalking him, waiting outside our house daily, until my son finally reported her to the police. Since they were still legally married, the police couldn't do much. My son hired a lawyer to file for divorce, and finally, my daughter-in-law gave in and signed the divorce papers. Talking with my wife, we realized that while our son had always been quiet and rarely expressed his opinions, he could be the scariest when angered. After the divorce, my daughter-in-law's life deteriorated rapidly. Her parents ended up deep in debt and couldn't repay it on their pensions, forcing my former daughter-in-law to work night jobs just to get by. She continued to wither away, and it seemed only a matter of time before the whole family declared bankruptcy. As for us, we moved from our original home into the house we built for our son. This was his idea.
Who knows when I'll remarry? Until then, I'd like you to live here with me. You love this house, right?
He said. I spend my days happily admiring the house, convinced that only my wife could design something so magnificent. With your incredible talent, have you ever regretted giving up your dreams to marry me? When I asked what had been on my mind, my wife burst into laughter.
You never realized? I've loved you since we were kids. Becoming your wife was my biggest dream.
Her smile was the same as when we played together as children. Next month, our daughter will be returning to the US for the first time in a while. I can't wait to spend time with our family of 4 in this beautiful house.